Death Metal Guidebook issue 1. We'll just say the creators as we're going through because it's obviously different stories. The main one, of course, is Snyder, Tynion, and Williamson writing. And this first story is kind of a... I won't say super important because I don't necessarily think you need to read it, but it is a nice little bit of supplemental material, sort of explaining how the world got the way it was before the start of Death Metal, and also sets up a little bit for the Justice League arc that's coming, starting issue 53.
Yeah, it's really the what you missed while we were in between issues.
Yeah.
And it's perfect for something like this. It is a guidebook that it doesn't go necessarily too in depth, but it goes just enough that I'd be like, okay, well, that's why this is this way. And it kind of, and if you are reading everything else, so like the last, the issue from 2 weeks ago, the Dark Knights book, where we were introduced to the Batman who is Gotham.
I think
that pops up here.
It does, yeah.
You know,
I think what I'll say about these one-shot tie-ins so far is that I feel like neither of them have been necessary, but I think both of them have been a little bit of extra context around some things. I think the last one felt a little bit more useful now that city popped up in this. Now, when it mentioned, this city that was sentient popped up in place of Gotham, I was like, oh, okay, that's nice to have some previous context for that, and get a real idea of what this world is. They're kind of, through all these one-shots, they're really giving us a lot of what the world is.
Yeah, I actually much preferred this one. Even like this first story, which I think is probably my least favorite in this book, feels more relevant than the equivalent in that first one shot where it was just like a recap.
Yeah,
this feels like there was a mission statement of we're gonna fill in and we're gonna have these little character moments versus the other one, which is a collection of Batman stories.
I feel like
Dark Worlds.
I'm kind of in a sort of like, I think balancing it about the same, in the sense that I think I agree the opening story in this is more relevant than the last one. I think I maybe preferred some of the small stories more in the last one than this one, but I still like some of the ones in this.
I think I like most of these stories more, and also I like the variety that we're not just stuck with Batman stories or or dark Batman stories. This is all the various things.
I was questioning last week that they felt the need to shove in that Lex Luthor reveal at the end, and it's just kind of funny that this one shot the following week followed on from it. So I guess that's good planning in that sense.
Yeah,
Lex looking suspiciously like Destiny of the Endless. The big flowing green cloak, also Spectre-esque, don't get me wrong, but the book as well. And I'm like, the way he talks about the book as well, it sounds a lot like Destiny's book. And
that's probably by design. Tynion, Snyder, and Williamson,
they might well be doing some of that. Like, it's obviously the book is slightly different. It's not the same looking book. It's not chained to him like it is Destiny. But just the way he talks about it, they talk about, this contains all the secrets, and the way he just looks visually, it reminds me a lot of that.
Yeah, it's basically Lex narrating. We see the world change. We see the Dark Batman kind of go after various heroes. How some of the Justice League fell in combat. How Wonder Woman sort of like surrendered to save the Amazons, and what was the other hero that did the same for someone else? But like
Aquaman maybe.
It was Aquaman for Atlantis, which makes sense. So, how the other heroes got captured, and it shows you like the Sinestro Batman came after John. The idea that he's been training, they've all been training to fight their counterparts. So we see like a Hawk Batman and stuff like that.
There's one just using a flamethrower on Martian Manhunter.
Yeah, there's no counterpart for Martian Manhunter. He's just a dude with a flamethrower.
Hey,
I do like anytime I can get Monkey doing Green Lantern iconography, I'm there for it. So that page with the Sinestro Batman. Or the Sinestro Corps Batman.
You say page, you mean panel.
Panel, sorry. On that page. Yeah. And I really did like the, Barry coming through to save Batman, through there.
Yeah, he's running from like a horde of evil Batman, and he's just jumping off a building and getting caught by the Flash. No, there's a fun little sequence. And the tease, of course, at the end is that Luthor says, I can't fight this alone, I have to build a team. And Lobo's like, well, what team are you talking about, Chief? I need to put my Legion back together. So we get a panel of, his team, and it says to be continued in Justice League 53. And I think that's did a good job of making me go, I'm actually kind of excited for that arc now, if that's what that arc's going to be.
Yeah, it makes it feel like this is a continuation. It's not just, an event for the sake of event. It is we're going to have to harness Doom to save the universe.
Yeah,
And I like that. Multiverse.
yeah.
Not
No,
universe.
it wasn't like a knockout the park story by any means. There is definitely some elements to it that feels like it's a little bit paddy at the start, as Lex is just kind of monologuing before stuff actually starts happening. But it felt like it was relevant. It gave me some extra context with some stuff, and it successfully teased the tie-in arc from Justice Leagues. I mean, art's not bad, of course, throughout. I'm sure Matt loved the reshaping of the continents into the giant bat symbol.
If the mission is to make me hate it, then yes.
I think you are supposed to hate it. It's the evil Batman doing it. It's supposed to be a terrible thing.
And I'm feeling like people are missing this. I'm seeing comments on Twitter and stuff, and I feel like people are missing the statement of because Batman is bad.
It's so. Well, Batman himself is not bad. All these other Batmen are bad.
No, because Batman, the concept that is the Batman who laughs. Right. Because Bruce would not redo the continents into a bat symbol.
Although,
at least I would hope not.
This does upset me that DC is not owned by Universal, because then one day we can't have a movie that's the Universal logo, except that the planet is the bat symbol.
Yeah,
they'll find a way.
I really want
it. Give it time. If it's not Warner Brothers, it'll be Disney. So.
True. So that was the first story. So I mean, it is a tie-in. I don't think it's like absolutely needed, and I think there's maybe an argument to be made that this should have been a single issue. I mean, not that I'm saying that I don't think any of the stories after this are worth reading, but more just so that it drives up the price by having all these extra little stories afterwards. When this could have just been like a 20-page one shot for a normal price.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this one felt important enough, I guess.
Yeah.
I think if that was all I was getting for the regular price, I probably would have been disappointed, because it does feel a little bit like the exposition lesson, the background, and less of a story.
Sure.
So in that context, I like it just being part of this larger thing where the others are actually little stories, whereas this is just the information.
And I think, some of those stories in the last one, like, some of them felt a bit more relevant than others at the time, and now because the city popped up here, I feel like, maybe a lot of those other little things they introduced, they made a point of introducing, maybe not the Bat Baby, but like the other ones will be relevant at some point, in some small way at least. And likewise, we get this Harley Quinn story next from Chip Zdarsky and Carrie Randolph on the art, and this was just kind of interesting from just like, Zdarsky's doing a DC story. This is kind of cool because I really like his Daredevil, and it's this Mad Max Harley Quinn fighting a giant mutant version of Boomerang, who does get completely bitten in half by a giant hyena.
Yeah. I do like this is the story of her, hyena named George.
Yes.
Right? Like, that was pretty cool.
Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. What I will say, just as Matt's fixing his mic there, is that there's a really awkward reference to Tiger King, and I sort of groaned at it, but then the editor's note made me love it.
Yeah.
Because the editor's note said, editor note, this story takes place when people like Tiger King. And that made me laugh. I was like, okay, you know what, you saved it with the editor's note.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, what were you saying, Matt?
Well, no, I love how cartoony it is, and it fits with Zdarsky. I know he didn't do the art, but with the way that his brain works from stuff that I've I read some Sex Criminals.
Mm-hmm.
So I am familiar with his art style enough that this felt very Zdarsky from Carrie Randolph. So that was really good.
Yeah. Actually, Joe's fight about Zdarsky with me is I had a bad first impression, because the first thing I read from Zdarsky was issue 1 of his, I think it was the Spectacular Spider-Man, and it wasn't terrible, but I thought it was really wordy, and it sort of left a sort of bad taste in my mouth, thinking that I didn't like Zdarsky. And I tried his Daredevil and thought it was amazing, and I've loved everything I've read of his Daredevil, and I've read maybe like 3 trades worth or whatever.
Zdarsky can be wordy, and often he does wordy in a way that he just rambles into jokes.
Sure.
Yeah.
That can really work. It's like you feel like, what's the point of this? It's just going on and on and on, and then the joke comes, and it's just enough where it's still funny.
Yeah, I mean maybe on a second try, I may not feel that way about that issue of Spider-Man or with the rest of that run, but Daredevil and then this story here, like I like this. I mean, I don't like it as much as Daredevil's fantastic. Like, it's really
it's one of the best books Marvel has going right now. It's like a top 3 Marvel book.
Yeah. It's basically it's that Captain America and Hulk all fighting for supremacy. Let's be honest.
I'm behind on all of them.
So am I at this point.
To be fair, I'm like 2 months behind on all my Marvel.
That said, though, they did take a 3-month break, so I'm not as behind as I was. I thought I was.
Yeah, that's good. But yeah, no.
Even when they came back, it was only every 2 weeks they were publishing.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and also with my new appreciation of Harley Quinn too, this feels really in the character. Like it feels like I feel like this Harley and the Harley and Batman are similar. Like there's not a big, dip between them. Yeah. Because especially when he chomps, when the hyena chomps Boomerang,
and it does the anime cartoony.
Yeah.
I love the art and that's kind of the way it's switched.
Yeah, really well. Because that makes the next panel where, he chomps the head and it's in silhouette with red and black. It makes that pop even more.
Yeah, and given that Boomerang technically just died, I think that confirms that, when they fix everything, deaths don't necessarily have to stick if we get them in this story.
I'm shocked.
I think this outright says it,
Yeah. I don't know. This was a fun story. I'm liking again this version of Harley. It's kind of the version that was a lot of the Palmiotti and Connor stuff. It's the version that's in the Harley Quinn show. It seems to be permeating to be the Harley right now, and I'm okay with that. It's a lot of fun to read. And again, this is the version that's been popping up in Batman.
I mean, could it be that my problem with that Harley Quinn book wasn't the version of Harley; it was the writing?
It's very possible. Maybe you don't like Palmiotti Connor's writing stuff.
Yeah, now that I've read, I've read Starfire by them that I really enjoyed. And now that I realize that Harley doesn't annoy me, maybe I should revisit that and give it an actual try,
I think if you enjoyed Harley, the take on Harley in the Birds of Prey movie, then I think you'll probably enjoy that run. It's very heavily inspired by that run.
Yeah.
Not for me.
Maybe it's not. Oh.
The next story is an Aquaman story called the Umebozu.
There you go, Umebozu.
Becky Cloonan, story and art. Art's very good in this. I will say that. Aquaman's trying to recruit this creature with pitch black, red eyes. Really interesting visual. The Bat Thulu, or whatever it's called. Shows up. Baphomet, there you go. Shows up in the water. I'll admit, I'm having a hard time remembering what the actual point of the story was from memory, and I just read it earlier today, so feel free to fill me in.
It's the fact that Aquaman, the reason he surrendered Atlantis was to save sea life, and that he's going around trying to collect all of these things. So, this creature pops up, and he says that if it's from the sea, he can communicate with it. But Baphomet makes him destroy it just to flex his power. And it's, it ends up taking a toll on Arthur.
Yeah, I really like the art in this. I did think Cloonan, obviously Cloonan did both the art and the writing. So, praise her art here. I think her writing here is a little bit overdone, I'd say. Yeah.
This almost could have been a silent story, except for a couple of the stuff in between.
There's a lot of monologuing,
There is. I do really like the art. Shout out to Tamara Bonvillain for the colors. I think they really pop in this story. Like that very first panel with the kind of the purple skies. Just it's so immediately distinct from everything else in the book. Really like that.
Yeah.
And also Arthur's design with the collar and the color scheme. Here for it.
Sure.
So this is based off of a paranormal phenomena from Japan. And then it says, I'm reading through the wiki on it, because, I'm a sucker for folklore. And then it goes into recent sightings. That is as recent as 1971.
Is this kind of like their equivalent of a Loch Ness Monster?
Kind of. Man, yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, but it's not as funny as Canada's version of Loch Ness Monster, which is the Ogopogo, which is...
Ogopogo, yeah.
And again, on that, I don't mean in terms of the mythology, because clearly this, it talks about it's hungry for souls. It has its own mythology.
Oh,
clearly.
yeah.
Just in terms of the enduring legend, even into the modern day.
In 71, in Okinawa, a fishing boat was on its way to New Zealand to catch tuna when it in its long line. from something from the sea appeared shaped like a gigantic organism, and the ship's crew called it a monster, creating a big uproar. It had many gray-brown wrinkles on its body, and its eyes are about 15 centimeters in diameter, a collapsed nose, and no mouth to be seen. Half its body was submerged in the murky water, so its whole body could not be ascertained, but it was said to leave a trail. It is said that they got ready to poke it with a harpoon, and the monster disappeared into the sea. So it could have been anything, but the fact that they're claiming the fishermen are claiming it was one of these is, a pretty cool take on monsters. And it's not just all about the Dark Batman, right? It's about, even though this is a monster, Arthur having the compassion to want to save it from this, darkness. I really enjoyed.
Yeah. Like I said, the art's really good. The sentiment of the story is really good. I just thought the actual writing, the text was a bit overdone. It's worth mentioning there is pages in between these stories. Usually here you'd have like pin-ups maybe, and like one of these bigger anthology books, but instead here it's kind of like fact stuff. It's like this one, for example, is like a list of locations with a bit of
Yeah, they all are. They're like, so that you had like the Gotham locations, the Seven Seas, the Hellscape with the sub locations in them. I kind of skipped over most of these, to be honest.
Yeah, so did I, but it's worth mentioning.
Oh no, not me. I love this shit.
Oh, of course, Matt read them all.
Yeah. And speaking of that, the next story,
is gorgeous.
Yes.
They are Dan Panosian on art and Vitae Ala writing.
If there's ever a story meant for me, it's this one.
Yeah, so this is a Ivy story with a small guest appearance by Swamp Thing, and then Ultimate Wonder Woman. It's basically her. She's in the cage, in the prison that Wonder Woman's keeping villains in, and she wants to get out. She's trying to get out. Wonder Woman tries to stop her, saying that you don't want to go out there. It's better down here. And Ivy makes her way out. And can I just call this what it is? It's the Mad Max Fury Road shot of Furiosa in the sand. With Ivy on, screaming, "What have you done?" That's that pose.
That panel, specifically the way that you had the prose text on the left, not in boxes or anything, just there. So good.
Yeah, no, I thought this was really good too, and I'm not even particularly partial to Ivy, but I just thought this was really well written, and I cared about it because of how well written it was.
Yeah.
Again, whoever the colorist was, I'm not seeing it here. I don't know where the credits page is. I've lost it.
It's on the last.
Love what they did here, where the first couple of pages it's all kind of really muted colors, faded, the underground stuff, and then when you get outside into that desert, it pops. It's so vibrant, and it's gorgeous in a horrific way because there's no greenery, but it's so good.
Yeah, and the story ends with Ivy back in her cell. Wonder Woman brings her some flowers that she's found,
like a promise.
So
yeah, the art in here. When I realized it was an Ivy story on top of it, and how she would respond to basically the desecration of the Earth, by an evil Batman, I was like, oh, I hope she plays a bigger part going forward. That would be nice.
Yeah.
I don't know if she will, but at the very least, this is a nice little snippet of her reaction to it. But yeah, it does look gorgeous. It's probably the best story in the book, I would say.
Hands down for me. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, really good, really good. And then the next story, is this the last one, I think? I think it is, yeah.
Yes.
Is probably the weakest one for me, I thought.
Yeah, it's Priest doing what Priest does, where there's a lot of subtext in...
I thought there's not enough pages for him to cram as much of his subtext in here that he tried to. This is another one where I thought there was too much dialogue. I mean, it's
just an extra 2 or 3 pages, I think, would have been fine.
It's Batman and Jonah Hex hunting the Joker dragon, basically, and killing it, and that sounds like it should be really fun. But honestly, I was just not into it at all.
But the lesson is that because Batman's embraced death, right, which is a nice take because he's taking the Black Lantern ring, that all these Joker dragons were something from Earth that was, and so Batman's trying to protect, even though it's this Joker dragon and it's trying to kill them, Batman's trying to do his best to still at the end of the day save it, which I liked, but it took way too many words to get that across.
Yeah.
So,
also, Matt saying Earth that was just made me think of Firefly, so thank you for that, Matt.
Well, I did it on purpose.
I did really like the art in this last story, though.
The art
is really good.
No, the art is good. The art is good. I just didn't enjoy reading it, almost at all.
It was a bit wordy.
Yeah.
I didn't hate it though.
So yeah, I'll basically do it. That is the death metal guidebook. So these one shots aren't doing so bad so far. I don't think in terms of, and maybe that's the trick, is having one shots rather than try to like do minis for lots of things or create these big stories. Saying, hey, here's 5 pages or 6 pages to deal with how Ivy reacts to this, make something out of it, and someone went away and did a beautiful little thing, is maybe actually a better tactic with these things. Just to see how everyone reacts to it, and you know, other little explorations. It's kind of the sort of thing we praise Deceased for a lot with Tom Taylor, is that he often finds ways to show how different corners, different characters of the universe are coping or surviving in the situation, or the tragic ending, as the case may be in that book specifically, because everyone's dying constantly. But so you know, maybe there's some value there, and something to learn about how to handle these big events and crossovers going forward when it comes to, you know, tie-ins. So the main story is the main story, and that's just whatever it's going to be. But so all right, Matt, what are you rating the Death Metal Guidebook?
I'm gonna give this one a 7.5. So yeah, I mean, I want to give it more for the Ivy story alone, but I can't do that. So,
Car?
Kind of agree. 7.5, dragged down by the first and last stories, respectively. I think all the ones in the middle I liked a lot more than that.
That's fair. I'm conflicted because I think the first story, while not like a super standout or anything, I think it's a fine tie-in that sets up some stuff and teases stuff well enough. Ivy story's the top one. Harley one's pretty solid. You know, the Aquaman had a good art, but I wasn't really into the writing. And then the last one, I think, was definitely the weak point. So I'm going to say a 7. I'm going to go with a 7. But
right.
Honestly, if I'm rating tie-ins to an event a 7, I think they're doing pretty well, to be honest. Like, that's a pretty reasonable place for me to be.
Yeah, I think I gave the one a couple of weeks ago a 6. So this is you know, for me a noticeable step up.
I think I went 7.5 in the last one. I can't remember. I'd have to go back and check. But no, I think, you know, for standards, as for these sort of tie-in things go, I think this is not a bad one to be playing at. I'm not annoyed. I'm not sitting going, oh, all these tie-ins, and yeah, maybe by the time we get to the 12th one, we might not feel quite the same. But I assume that given these are really playing into the start of all this, that as we progress to the later tie-ins, they'll tie into whatever the story's turned into by that point, and you know.
Yeah.